Meet Ganoderma adspersum, commonly known as the southern bracket, a large perennial fungus from the Ganodermataceae family. Unlike short-lived mushrooms that appear and disappear within days, this species develops massive woody fruiting bodies that can persist for many years while slowly expanding over time. Recognizable by its thick rounded shape, hard crust-like surface, and brown pore-producing underside, Ganoderma adspersum is one of the more robust polypores seen in parks, forests, and urban environments. Often attached to the lower trunk or base of trees, it plays an important role in wood decay while quietly reshaping the structure of the trees it inhabits. Ganoderma adspersum is regarded as inedible because of its dense, woody consistency and extremely firm flesh. Even younger specimens are far too tough for normal culinary use, and the texture becomes harder as the fungus matures over the years. Although it is not considered a food mushroom, it is sometimes associated with traditional medicinal use in a similar way to other Ganoderma species. Rather than being cooked and eaten directly, it may be dried and processed into extracts, powders, or herbal preparations. Its flavor is typically described as very bitter, with a dry, fibrous structure that remains rigid even after long periods of boiling or cooking. Because of this, it has little value as an edible woodland mushroom despite its large size. When harvested for non-culinary purposes, the fruiting bodies are usually cut into smaller pieces and dried thoroughly before further processing. Older specimens often collect dirt, moss, algae, and insects due to long exposure outdoors, so cleaning them properly is important. For most mushroom enthusiasts, Ganoderma adspersum is appreciated more for its impressive appearance, long lifespan, and medicinal interest than for any practical use in cooking. Ganoderma adspersum is best recognized as a large, perennial bracket fungus that develops at the base of hardwood trees, usually emerging directly from the trunk or root flare without a distinct stem. It often forms thick, heavy shelves that grow slowly over time, becoming massive and long-lasting structures attached to living or weakened trees. The upper surface is hard, uneven, and crust-like, with colors ranging from dull brown to dark gray or reddish-brown tones. As it matures, the surface often becomes rougher and more weathered, developing cracks and irregular textures, and it may be partially covered with moss, algae, or debris due to its long-term exposure in outdoor environments. On the underside, instead of gills, it has a dense pore layer. These pores are very small and tightly packed, forming a smooth-looking surface that releases brown spores. The spore print is brown and can sometimes be seen as a fine dusty deposit on nearby bark or surrounding surfaces. The inner flesh is extremely firm, fibrous, and layered, typically ranging from light brown to dark woody tones. With age, it becomes increasingly hard and compact, often reaching a near woody consistency that reflects its slow perennial growth. Overall, Ganoderma adspersum can be distinguished from similar species by its preference for the base of living trees and its tendency to form especially thick, robust fruiting bodies over time. The most similar species is Ganoderma applanatum, which is more often found on dead wood and has a slightly thinner, more shelf-like growth form. Ganoderma adspersum is a wood-decaying fungus that primarily develops on living or weakened hardwood trees. Instead of appearing on fallen timber, it is most often found attached to the base or lower trunk, where it gradually affects the living wood over long periods of time. It is commonly associated with hardwood species such as oak, beech, maple, poplar, willow, and other mature broadleaf trees. In some cases, it can also occur in urban environments on older park or roadside trees, where stress and age make the host more susceptible. Once established, it can remain on the same tree for many years, slowly increasing in size as it continues its growth cycle. This species is frequently encountered in deciduous forests, mixed woodland areas, parks, and city green spaces where mature trees are present. It tends to favor shaded, humid locations around the lower parts of trunks, especially where moisture can accumulate near the root zone. Unlike short-lived fungi that appear briefly after rainfall, Ganoderma adspersum remains visible year-round due to its tough, perennial structure. Even long-established specimens continue to grow slowly while influencing the health and stability of their host trees. Ganoderma adspersum thrives in mild to warm temperatures combined with consistently high humidity and long-term moisture availability within its host tree. Active growth typically occurs from spring through autumn, although mature fruiting bodies are perennial and can remain on trees throughout the year. This species generally develops best within a temperature range of around 10 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius, where the tree tissue remains sufficiently moist to support its slow, continuous expansion. Unlike fast-developing mushrooms that appear after short rainy periods, this fungus grows gradually over time, steadily adding new layers as conditions remain favorable. Moisture plays a crucial role in its development, particularly at the base of trees where water tends to accumulate. Humid forests, shaded park areas, and damp urban environments provide the most suitable conditions, while extended dry periods can slow growth or reduce new development on the margins. Stable environmental conditions also contribute significantly to its success. Locations with mature trees, limited direct sunlight, and consistent humidity levels tend to support the most persistent growth. Because it is closely tied to living wood, rather than dead debris, it is commonly found in areas where trees experience long-term stress but remain standing. As earlier said, Ganoderma adspersum is not considered an edible mushroom and is not used as a traditional food source due to its extremely hard, woody structure. It cannot be consumed in the same way as soft culinary fungi, as its dense tissue is not digestible. However, like other members of the Ganoderma genus, it contains naturally occurring compounds such as complex polysaccharides, structural fibers, and various secondary metabolites formed during its long-term growth on living wood. Because of this composition, interest in the species is mainly linked to its potential bioactive properties rather than nutritional value. It is typically studied or processed in dried form for extracts, rather than evaluated as a food mushroom. A common mistake when identifying Ganoderma species is confusing different bracket fungi that share a similar hard, shelf-like appearance. Many species can look alike from a distance, especially when they are older and affected by weathering. Another frequent error is relying only on the visible upper surface. Color and shape can vary significantly depending on age and environmental conditions, which makes them unreliable on their own for identification. The underside pore layer is often overlooked, even though it provides some of the most important diagnostic features for distinguishing species within this group. In older specimens, identification becomes more difficult as surfaces may become cracked, dirty, or covered with moss and algae. For reliable identification, it is always better to consider a combination of features such as pore structure, growth form, and the type of substrate the fungus is growing on. This is where we finish our look at Ganoderma adspersum. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and keeps this kind of mushroom content going. Species like this show just how much is happening in forests over long periods of time, often unnoticed while they slowly shape the trees and environments around them. Next time, we'll move on to another species, take a closer look, and continue exploring the fungal world in a simple and practical way.